Yo, what's up, guys? It's Talon. So today we're going to be coaching a Grandmaster Kaisa player. We're really going to focus on kind of understanding champion strengths and weaknesses and really playing around that rather than kind of autopiloting in lane. And then also sort of understanding where to be on the map and when to be there so you can get the maximum amount of gold and then, really be a threat later on in the fights. So if you guys are interested in those types of tips for a higher level ADC player, or if you're interested in coaching yourself, just DM me on Discord, Talon1169. The coaching is $15 an hour, and I'm a sovereign player, rank 5 autofill player. So if you're interested in tips from that, yeah, DM me there or link in the description to my Discord server as well. You could find me there as well. But yeah, let's get right into the video.
I play Kai'Sa, Lucian, Ezreal.
Okay. And
Those
then,
are
yeah,
my three mains, but I can play almost every ADC proficiently except for Draven.
yeah, I don't play Draven either. That champ's kind of weird.
I
Are
don't
you
know,
usually
this game
duo
is
or
neither
solo
hit or
or
miss. This is solo.
solo? Okay.
Like all 2 games are just solo.
Gotcha. Do you feel like you have any typical issues or anything like specific that you're kind of like,
Um,
wondering about?
I feel like I'm clueless about the map
Okay.
and maybe trading patterns.
Gotcha. So yeah, we'll just obviously go into it. Typically the way it works, we'll just talk about a lot of the details of the game, and then I'll write out notes of like the more general things, right, that are more like recreatable. I think you did a really good job in this game. Like your support is completely running it down, and I think you did a good job of like actually targeting the ADC when they started targeting your teammate. This is, one of those situations where you didn't have much control over your teammate randomly walking up. If we want to like really be nitpicky about it, because the thing is, when you're playing with really bad solo queue supports, you kind of have to do like a lot to sort of lessen their ints, basically. And so like you could potentially be a bit more aggressive due to the fact that they're clearly in a really dumb spot, right? Like obviously she shouldn't be here, but because she's doing dumb
Honestly,
stuff, you might
yeah,
want to be a little bit more like aware of that in a bit more of like an aggressive position, because you have cleanse. So like worst case, if you get hooked, you cleanse it right away and then you don't actually get pulled in. But if she gets hooked, we're more screwed. So to me, it's like maybe we're wanting to just position more aggressively for that reason. Because also, well, it's Caitlyn. You actually would win like just straight up damage wise here. You have more damage level 1 than Caitlyn, and Nami is better level 1 than Blitz. Like, because all Blitz has is hook, but like the longer the fight goes, like the better you guys would win because of your passive and everything. So if I'm looking at it, again, I think it's likely that even if like say I was in this position, I'd probably not do this, but I think the best thing to probably do would be like be aware of that earlier than just instantly be auto attacking the Caitlyn to possibly stop this. But it is also, really your teammate being really dumb, so that sucks. But yeah.
I mean, we should have never been in that position because Blitzcrank can just hook us with web minions.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I would say like again, when we're in solo queue, sometimes we have to do things that we know are wrong because our teammate is doing something, and we just have to try to lessen their mistake. You know what I mean? Because it's like your teammate was doing something really dumb, but to prevent that, you have to walk up just because you realize what's going to happen, and just so you're drawing enough pressure so the enemy are pressured back so they can't just like fully kill them. Like I said, it's way more his fault than it's not your fault that you did that, but it's just like we have to realize our teammates are going to make a lot of dumb decisions and then base some of our decisions off that. Also, small thing is you can cleanse like mid, like say you're getting hooked and you're here, you can cleanse and it'll stop it still. Like instead of cleansing really late here, maybe it's just a reaction thing here, but that's just something to
Yeah,
keep
that's
in mind.
I just suck at reaction here.
Yeah,
That's up to me.
gotcha. Which is all good. It happens. Obviously here again, there's not much to talk about, right? That's a mistake to go in. Yeah, it happens. But yeah, I would say main thing early game so far is just kind of be aware of how the enemy are going to react when we like make a decision. So it's like, again, if they hook us in, if they hook our teammate in, what's going to happen? We're going to actually win the all-in, so we can potentially go forward, even though, again, like as we acknowledged, our teammate was doing something dumb. And then in this situation here, we know Blitzcrank has flash, and so flashing onto him when he's that level of HP, of course, not an ideal like kind of thing as well. So just putting yourself, like a lot of times what people do is they'll sort of just only think of it from the perspective of themselves, so they'll really try to like, oh, I think I can kill him, I'm going to flash onto him, but they won't think, oh, well, he might have flash, he might have ignite, he might have, this or that. And so I think that might have been kind of what happened with this death onto the Blitz here. That's just one thing to keep in mind. But definitely a rough early game that a lot of the things are, hard to control. Like I think you do a really good job when your teammates are doing dumb things to get autos in on the enemy and like put yourself in a position to at least get some amount of damage. But yeah, the Nami is definitely griefing you pretty hard, which is, unfortunately solo queue ADC does have that. Um, Again, positioning thing here. So the main thing is, again, if we're putting ourselves in the mind of our opponent, what is Blitzcrank looking for? He's looking for a hook right now. When would Blitzcrank probably look for a hook? When we go up to last hit, because we stand still. And so the main thing you have to do, like, your eyes don't need to be on the minion. Your eyes don't need to be on Caitlyn. They need to be on Blitz. And as soon as you see Blitz's movement speed, like, do you know how Blitz works in terms of his abilities, right? Like the movement speed and...
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So I just asked that question because obviously sometimes people don't. So I know it's kind of a silly question, but so you know he's going to use his movement speed. As soon as you see that, he's probably looking for a hook right after. And so your third ability is going to be the best way to respond because you don't have cleanse. And so as you're walking up for a last hit, you should be completely kiting like really far back, and then third ability backwards as soon as you see his movement speed. Again, these are hard things to do, and like I said, we're put in a very tough spot. So like I want to acknowledge this is a hard game to play. A lot of things go wrong that we can't control, but these are the things we can control. Is again putting ourselves in the perspective of the enemy. Because a lot of times, like I said, you're a pretty good player, right? You're Grandmaster, you understand the game well. The difference between these Grandmaster players versus like a Challenger, Sovereign, ADC, a lot of times is starting to think about the game more holistically, thinking about how the enemy are actually playing, understanding the entire map, understanding how they're like kind of thinking rather than just how much damage can I deal, making the proper decisions. Because in terms of, again, your decisions, if you have a support who's human, these things aren't going to matter, right? So that's kind of the main thing to focus on so far.
All right.
Does that all make sense? Do you have any like questions about that or
Yeah,
anything?
it makes sense. Makes sense
Okay,
to me.
cool.
Like instead of walking up, just kite back.
Yeah. And again, it would depend on the champion, right? Because it's a Blitzcrank, we have to know what specific abilities. So for me, it's less about like something as general as just kite back, right? It's more of because he has these spells up, I have to use my spells to react to it. So you can still go up and last hit, but you have to have your third ability to dodge that, right? Because you know that as soon as you see his movement speed go out, you third ability immediately, he's probably not going to hit you, or at least there's a much lower chance, right? So it's more about thinking how our spells can actually interact with the enemy spells, rather than just like something as much as just kite back when you're pressured. Because sometimes you can just walk up for free because maybe it's, a Lulu, right? Or something that's not really as dangerous, basically. Like here is exactly how you respond, right? Where it's really hard for him to hit you with your third ability, and you're getting the autos off, even though he could potentially hook, because you know it's going to be hard for him to hit you when you're kiting well. Like these are the types of things. And because you have cleanse up, you're not as scared, because if you make a mistake and you get hooked, you can just cleanse and it's fine. So that type of thing that's important to keep in mind as well. Yeah, and now he's used hook, so yeah, now we kind of are good for a little
Could have
bit.
just played aggressive there because he has no hook, but
Yeah, it's kind of hard though, I would say. I mean, I think because your jungle's here, you could, yeah. And because you have Nami, so you have healing, but also you guys are down a lot, so I don't really mind being a bit safer at this point when we don't know where jungle is and all that stuff. So unfortunately, again, we're like at this point, it's pretty hard, right? We're just kind of farming under turret and waiting for the later part of the game at this point. It's more those other things that we spoke. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
all I wanted was just to get my first item to actually play the game.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
Kaiser Wolf, first item is not really a champion.
Yeah, exactly. To me, I'm not even wanting to fight first dragons, so like the main thing here is just, surviving and farming. I don't think you're going to hit item before dragon, so because I think you'd need 1900 if I'm not mistaken. So like there's not really much we're going to do, at this point anyway. I would probably want to push this for prio, so I would have like gone on the wave, but then he hits the root, so you just go straight on him is good. I think this is all fine, at this point again. Then yeah, I assume you'll just push and then probably recall after. So yeah. Yeah, here again, I'd probably go up on the wave really quick because we see Blitz. I'd push the wave instantly, and then probably start possibly trying to rotate towards mid lane, but then realistically just going back, like going for a ward and then going back because the wave's about to come. But I'd be looking for a ward here. This is a good timer where it's pretty unlikely their jungle's going to be ganking us. Both the objectives just got taken. They're probably resetting or farming or doing something else. This is a good time where, because there's no wave here, I can get vision, so I'm not as worried about getting ganked because you don't really have anything to do here. If you just end up sitting here... Yeah, what's up?
Where would you put the ward? Like
I would most likely ward on their camp. What's up?
Oh, would you put it on the blue entrance, or would you just
on the blue entrance, like near, so we can see blue / like Gromp when it's coming. And the reason you're not that scared is because you have ult flash cleanse, and because they were going through here, so like you wouldn't really be in a lot of danger, right? So that's the reason that I would ward there. Generally, I'm trying to get wards on camps as much as possible. Like if I get a lane pushed quickly. Because yeah, like the ward you just did doesn't do too much for us in 95% of cases. Obviously, if we do get lane ganked, it could potentially be useful, but most of the time, that's a bit more rare. And seeing Blitz, like if Blitz is in that bush, you'd already know he's in there, so you just wouldn't walk in there, right? Whereas instead, like if you have vision on the blue buff or something, then you can kind of determine when the enemy jungle is going to gank you, because
So
obviously he's
would
almost
whoever
always going to clear blue.
prefer, whoever prefer that I put the ward in a tri bush instead of down there?
Yeah, tri bush would be better. Like I said, the only time I want you doing any defensive ward, like this defensive, like in tri bush, or even sometimes you can ward here, is basically if you're getting pushed down in your lane really hard, which obviously you were getting pushed in for a lot of the time, but like this specific scenario back here, right, you actually had to push the lane first, and so you had time. So generally when it comes to warding, anytime that you have the push in the lane and you have prio, you're going to want to ward at a camp or a decent river spot, but ideally a camp, because that's really going to give you actual information on jungle. And then yeah, the defensive wards are pretty much because you can't go farther because you're just too pushed behind your turret or whatever. Oh, I didn't see what happened here, but I mean, I don't think you probably just get ganked.
Actually, they're just getting 3-man dived and I just prevented them walking away.
No, there's nothing to do here. Yeah.
No. I should have just flashed instead of cleanse, but
no, I don't think you need to do either. I think what you should have done is just autoed him and then ulted behind, and then you'd be fine. Like if you ended up just walking right now to this, you could auto him and then you just ult and then you E out and you're probably fine. But yeah, I don't even know if you need to
respecting Viego too much because Viego was right behind him.
Yeah, and I mean, like I'm not really. Again, that's more of a niche point, I'd say. Like it's not. Generally, what we're trying to look for is recreatable things, more than, oh, you should have flashed this one time, because that's not necessarily something that's going to come up frequently. It's like, yeah, technically, probably would have been better to ult there instead of flashing, but I don't really care. Like, that's not something that's really going to change you from being a good player or a bad player. To me, again, the decision making is more things like, as we kind of spoke about, right, with your teammates making the mistakes, and then you end up still pressuring and kind of keeping track of specific spells of the enemy, or thinking, putting yourself in their shoes. And then the warding thing too, tracking the jungle a lot better by using your prio to actually get proper wards off. Those are going to be the things that are going to be more recreatable and are going to, like, in more games actually get you wins. Because I'm assuming your goal is probably something like Challenger. Am I wrong on that, or?
I can probably reach Challenger this season, but I probably want Sovereign.
Okay, so the goal is Sovereign. So the point is, when your goal is Chal, Sovereign, whatever is higher than you've done before, but you're like Grandmaster level player, say that your peak is, I don't know, 40, 50 marks? Like, what is it, the exact marks?
Like 50, 52.
50. Okay, so the point is, if you'd won 5 more games within, whenever you got 50 marks, you're Challenger already. And then if you just win like 25 more, 30 more games, you're Sovereign. So the point is, you're trying to find these small things that are going to win you a couple more games, because you're already good enough to win most of these games. And so the details like keeping track of those certain spells that make your game go a lot better, or this wording stuff, is probably not going to win you a million games, because at this point you've got the fundamentals down. Now it's about finding those couple things that will win you an extra, say, 1 or 2 of your next 100 games. And to me, that jungle tracking is probably the biggest thing that's going to help you out a lot, because then you're more aware of those ganks and getting those words like more effectively. And then the other thing is, because you are playing solo queue ADC, you have to understand how to play with a bad support, because you're just going to get a lot of bad supports. And then the next thing is understanding sort of your job. So actually, you pull up scoreboard here. So if we're looking at the current state of the game, you're not very strong. The objective's not up for a little bit. So if you die like right now, it's not a big deal. And again, you're not that strong, so dying for a wave is not the end of the world. And then there's a wave that's about to reach bot lane. You have your ultimate, you have your cleanse. There's no real reason why you shouldn't go and catch this wave and then go somewhere else, because instead you're just sharing a wave, probably not going to get any gold. So basically the risk reward here is not a big deal. If you end up dying on this wave, which you shouldn't, because we have decent vision here. We know the wave is coming because we can see, right, our wave to tell that their wave is coming. There should be no reason you can't go up for this additional wave and then recall right after, because even if you died, you'd respawn in time for the objective. And so this is the biggest thing with a lot of ADC players when they're playing, like, scaling farming champions, is they don't properly get this additional wave that's coming. They'll get the wave that's right there, like you did, and then they'll leave. And then what they end up doing, they go mid, they go somewhere else, but then their teammates on that wave, they take it. Whereas say that you get this second wave, you get to recall, and now you get to go on this next mid wave, which probably you actually get some amount of gold from, and then you're reset. You're probably going to get an extra longsword or something for an objective, which a lot of times doesn't matter, but sometimes it might be an item break point depending on the situation. And then over time, that 200 gold that you get, and then say you did that 1 or 2 more times, that's another, to 400 extra gold, you have 500 to 600 extra gold now, and you might be hitting, let's say, you know, your 4th item by Elder when you would have only been 3.5 otherwise. And so it's about getting those certain item breakpoints and like kind of going on those additional waves, basically. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because yeah, we end up at least getting the gold here, but then obviously because now Renekton doesn't get that gold, and then the wave dies bot, and now we're resetting too late as well. Because now what ends up happening is, well, now you don't get to push the wave out, or if you do go push the wave, you don't have time to reset, or set up for the objective properly, which we would rather be going through mid lane with our team through the objective rather than going through bot side. But now we're kind of spending a lot of time clearing a camp that doesn't really do anything for us, again, setting up for this objective or being in like a better spot for this objective. And it's kind of just sort of wasting time, basically. So a lot of this could have just been done more efficiently to set up for the objective, essentially.
So the correct play would have been like take an extra wave, maybe the camp, and then just recall for the objective.
Yeah, exactly. And then
Okay.
you would go through mid, because generally as the ADC you want to be, you know, going with your team, and usually that's through mid lane. So if you push out the side lanes 30 to 45 seconds before the objective, then you don't have to worry about those sides, which is why then you just get to go hover mid. And then where your team entered here, for example, where they all ended up getting caught, let's say, you know, hypothetically you were mid with them, I in this case I wouldn't actually want you to go there, but like there'd be some cases where you end up just having to go follow your team and you're in a position to help them, but here you're never in a position to help your team. And again, it's their fault because they should be on Dragon side. And so don't get me wrong, that's the hard thing, is like we have to simultaneously acknowledge that our teammates are fucking idiots, because they just almost always are, but then we also have to figure out how we can navigate the game like despite that. But yeah, you're right. And then I like that you go here. Maybe you can kill. Yeah, I think you can.
Yeah, cool.
That's good. And yeah, this is a good choice too, to not like just base drag for no reason. This is another time catch the extra wave. So enemy team was just dragon. We see 2 mid, 1 bot. There's maybe 1 person here, and your death doesn't matter. So like the biggest thing that I have to reiterate to you is when you have good information but not perfect information, because I'm assuming the reason you don't go here is because you don't know where Viego is, correct?
Yeah.
And so when you don't have perfect information but you're like pretty sure, because obviously their jungle was like just on dragon like 30 seconds ago, right? So unless he insta reset ran here really quickly, pretty unlikely. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is you can take more risky plays for additional waves when there's no real negative to your death. Because if you die, all you do is give them 300 gold. There's no Baron, there's no Elder, there's no Dragon, so it doesn't really matter. And you're going to hit your item breakpoint, which means then you can go back now to bot lane. You're going to be a lot stronger. You have the potential to kill. Basically, we just have to be more greedy for the additional wave, right? It's kind of this similar situation as we saw before. And now that's 400 gold that we've lost out on, that we could have otherwise had. So that's kind of a big thing to keep in mind. And this is good going for the second wave here, and then you go through mid, towards mid, and then you can catch mid. This is exactly like the perfect sequence in terms of getting gold. And again, even if you somehow died on this wave, I'd probably ward the bush just a little bit. Safety, it doesn't really matter too much though. But even if you died here, like we don't actually care that much. We're getting a little close now. Now it's going to be not the greatest to die. And then at this point, I think you already like walk into the bush and then you ward, like you're literally right here and then you ward. It would have made a, like if you warded it like when you're back here, maybe it makes sense. But I'd way rather have this ward on Baron, right? Because then we're getting a lot more vision, a lot more valuable vision. Or if you're going to ward somewhere around here, you would ward here because then you'll see people entering. Whereas most people are going to camp this bush anyway. Like it's pretty rare someone's going to sit in this bush specifically. And you would see them enter it if you had this ward. So I would say the main thing with your warding is when you have kind of, again, lanes pushed or you have control or your teammates are with you, try to be a bit, don't be super greedy with them, but oftentimes you can ward a jungle camp or an objective or these other things.
Are you taking the notes or should I take the notes myself?
Oh, so sorry, I didn't say at the beginning. The way I do it is I'll just write the notes out at the end. Generally, I'll remember the main points and we'll just speak about them. And then if you have questions, I'll write out, answers to those. And yeah, we'll just think about all the main things we kind of spoke about. If you prefer me to write the notes in the middle of this,
fine. I'm just
but yeah,
asking,
that's typically how I'll do it. So. I mean, this fight was obviously played really well, so very good job here. I think your mechanics are definitely very good, so I think that's obviously a good thing to point out as well. again, yeah, main things would be those couple points. There's not like a ton of of big issues here. It's those 2 points of kind of playing more around your teammates' mistakes / keeping track of enemy cooldowns better and how they're actually going to respond, and then I guess 3 maybe to where to be on the map, like creating those additional waves on timers where your death doesn't matter a lot to get that extra gold, and then the warding stuff. I would say those are the main things so far. So that's kind of what we will write the notes out on from this game, and then we'll see, you know, what we see in the other game. But let's hope he doesn't steal.
No,
Okay,
there's
nice.
no way he steals. He's not in time.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I think you get one. Yeah, so you end up getting the camp. That's good. And then after you get the camp, again, you could maybe just even get this top wave because it's coming rather than recalling now. Because again, the reason I just always want you getting this wave is to create a natural push for yourself. Because it doesn't, like, again, there's no real danger. You have flash ult cleanse and it's coming to you. And then you get to go with your team here. Whereas now someone either has to go topside or all these minions die because it's Baron buffed. So then you're going to lose this 200 gold. And it's just like, your team's not going to engage in a fight 2 seconds in when all these waves are all the way here. They're going to push out the waves first anyways. So just getting that additional wave again. So if we look at the additional waves you could have gotten, 3 separate additional waves, which is 600 gold, right? So,
Yeah.
sorry, what was that?
I just wanted to point out that I just lost on 600 gold.
Yeah, exactly. And here I'd maybe even want to go bot side because my whole team's top side and just, again, trying to catch a wave. Whereas, yeah, you can kind of see how you end up going for this wave anyway, right? So we could have been mid here then, and then that's where we go anyway. So it's kind of just this waste of time. But this is like a smaller thing, right? Most people, like most of the time you're going to the correct place. Losing out on 600 gold, honestly, is a lot less than most people I see. But these are the important things, obviously, because it could matter, right? We'll see, like, maybe we'll be lucky enough to even notice. Maybe you're going to be 600 gold off of a stasis or 4th item or whatever. You never really know. But, like, those are the types of things you don't realize lose you games, but they can, so... And yeah, I assume there's just nothing really, you're just waiting, then should be pretty straightforward.
No, everyone is collapsing on the looks. We could have just...
You could probably go bot side now. I think you should just go bot side right now is the thing, like at this point, because you're probably not going to push through mid with these people, and they just got drawn top side, so I'd rather like start going for this bot turret now, because I have my Aatrox hovering. Going mid isn't really bad, like but you see they're just going to wave clear. You're not really going to get anything. Whereas like say you'd rotated here, right, you get this kill. Maybe you end up killing her, possibly now with the bubble. No, so but yeah, going through bot side, like a lot of times that's what I like to kind of do with the bot pressure, or with the mid pressure rather, is then rotate towards the side lane when I can, because of that. But obviously this play ends up working out fine too. But yeah, it works out great. So.
My Aatrox is already pushing, so it's fine.
Yeah. No, that's why a lot of times I like collapsing, like when I have someone like the Aatrox or like a teammate going there, because then I know if someone responds, I already saw people rotate towards the top side because they were collapsing on my top side person, and then someone's stuck on the mid wave, so then I have that timer of like 10-15 seconds where I get to be there first. And obviously with Kai'Sa you have really good, also, I'm pretty sure, wait, how much would you need? You would need like
only 200 gold for my Rift Maker. So
yeah, so this is kind of the time where, right, maybe at this timer, like it probably won't matter, but this is a timer where maybe you lose a fight and someone lives on, 100 HP and a Rift Maker changes that. And this game probably doesn't, but the point is it's 1 or 2 of 100 games that you'll play, which in the long run could be the difference between you getting like, a peak rank or not. So that's kind of like, again, I just want to point this out because now it's kind of different than when I'm coaching like a lower level player. It's like I'm just having them focus on the fundamentals, but you're very good at Kai'Sa. Like you're better than I am at Kai'Sa, even though I've played this champion a decent amount, and your mechanics are good, and you understand the game pretty well. So it's these small things that could potentially matter, but like I said, in this type of game won't. So we'll go into the next replay, and then we'll write out notes. And again, anytime you have questions or anything specific, just let me know. But yeah.
Like this game I griefed a lot. I griefed a shit ton. Like this is actually embarrassing.
It happens.
But it has to be. Like I have to know my mistakes.
Yeah. I mean, for me, there's a difference between like mechanical mistakes and like decision-making things. Like I don't really get too mad at myself when I like miss an ultimate or something, right? Because it's just like that's gonna happen. And I'm more like when I am in the wrong spot or where I shouldn't be. Like that's the type of thing where it's more the stuff I'll worry about. So this is the same thing with the warding, right? If we actually think about it, like this ward, you're never gonna get ganked at 12 seconds, right? And also, and again, unfortunately, your teammate's AFK. So I obviously, again, I'm acknowledging your teammate's fucking AFK. It sucks. But a ward like this doesn't do anything. You're not going to get lane ganked at 12 seconds. You're not even really going to get lane ganked until, let's say, maybe 145 at the earliest, unless they're like a really weird jungler. And so if we did want this ward, it would be a lot later. Realistically, what we'd prefer, though, is to push the wave. If we have prio, we ward again, you know, as we spoke about before. And then if you don't have prio, you ward tri-bush level 2 or level 3. But there's basically never a point to ward level 1. Because you're just putting yourself in a lot of danger, because the jungle could be there already, right? Because they could be starting there, and then they go on you, you die. That type of thing, and it's just going to expire quicker, so then you're not going to get as much value out of it. And then this is a thing which I don't like. It's hard because your teammate's AFK, but let's just say hypothetically you're getting pushed back. There's no reason to push this wave like this, because they're going to walk up at you if they're human, right? Like right now Caitlyn should be here and Nami should be here, and you should be like 30% HP. Like they're idiots, so it's not as bad. But again, you have to put yourself in the mindset of what the enemy are thinking. They're two high range poke champions, and you're a low range, weaker early game champion whose support is AFK. If they're gonna push into you, then just let them push into you, because now you get to farm under your turret for free. If they're going to like stand super far back and be complete pussies, then maybe you can try to push. But the problem is now you're just letting them like basically freeze on you, when you could just wait for your teammate to be here. Or like say it was a different case and your teammate was here and he's backed off, you wait till your teammate walks up a bit more, and then you start going for this type of thing. Because it is good to maintain. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Honestly, I should have never been allowed to take the wave in, like never.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
and even when they're bad, as we can see, you still lost a lot of HP. So
yeah. So basically, I should have never ward before 1 minute 30.
No, not 130. You should never ward before like the first wave, because okay, the first wave you're not going to be able to get the best value out of your, like you're not going to get the best placement on your ward, because you're not going to be able to walk up all the way to their buff, because if their jungle's there and sees you, you die, right? So that's why you can't ward level 1. And then additionally, it will expire. But say that you push the lane, like say you are where Caitlyn and Nami are 10 seconds ago, before the wave meets, and they push, they should now go ward your Krugs, because they have the time where they don't have to do anything, and they're going to be able to get a more, like a better placement. So basically having the lane pushed allows you to get better placement, and then placing it a little later makes it last longer. But you don't want to wait till 130. I would just say after you push the first wave is when you would now be okay with warding, basically. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
And then, yeah, again, probably, okay. If we're looking at, like, again, this is the more small thing. So a lot of times the enemy just aren't very coordinated with, like, long-range champs. They're not going to walk up properly. And so Caitlyn's up a lot further, and Nami is a lot further back. So when you're CSing, you should be CSing from down here so that she walks up and then walking back. Whereas when you do this, you put yourself immediately in her range, basically. And it's also higher auto damage from her, so you'd prefer to be in the Nami's range when you're farming under your turret like this. Whereas, again, you're putting yourself straight in the line of fire of Caitlyn. Obviously, typically you want to be on this side of the lane, right, the river side. But just in that like specific time when you're farming under your turret, pay attention to the enemy's positioning again. So it kind of comes down to the same thing, right, with the blitz, where it's you're just not paying attention to what your enemy are actually doing. You're just playing the lane kind of autopilot, right? And because you understand the game well enough, it's not like you're like throwing the lane. You're playing fine in lane. But these types of things would, again, stop so much poke that you've ended up taking. And so instead of being the HP you are right now, where you end up maybe dying because we end up, okay, we just waste everything a little late. But yeah, you would be like 50% HP, and it wouldn't be as scary. And then also with the cleanse thing, it's been a couple times now, just cleanse quicker. Like, don't be so scared of, you know, waiting for the perfect cleanse. Like, you should have cleansed out of that bubble, you know, 2 seconds ago, but you're really trying to greed it. And then when you end up trying to greed it, then you lose your flash as well, right? Whereas we wouldn't have had to lose flash. So that's a pretty frequent thing. And it's hard because I also want you to try to outplay sometimes. I don't want you always just, you know, instant flashing the second you see something scary, but it is something where you need to be a bit more aware of that. And then here you kind of get punished because, again, more so all of the things leading up to this that lead you to be more poked out than you should, more so than this last scenario where now you're pretty much fucked, unless the enemy play badly, so which they are playing pretty badly. So shout out to them.
I should have done that like 100 times then.
Yeah, but it's fine. We'll take it. Most of the time,
I here stay because my Gregor is here.
I am kind of scared of this. Like, I would have probably just fully recalled, but it might kind of work out. So I mean, maybe it's the correct play. But to me, I would have just been like, I'm just recalling. I don't care. But I don't know. I don't think it was a bad choice. But yeah.
I'm just a very greedy with gold, like very. That's why I just stayed for the extra wave.
Yeah, yeah. And I understand the greed because what I'm telling you is to be greedy, but again, it's the timers of being greedy. So like when I told you to be greedy for those other waves, right? It's because there's no objective, there's nothing to do. But obviously early game there's no objective. But one, losing gold early game is like a lot more valuable. And what should end up happening, it didn't because again, the enemy really suck. But like what should end up happening if you stay here is they crash the wave quickly and then they dive you, they kill you, and you lose an entire wave. Whereas if you recall, you come back. Now, if the enemy overstay, you kill them because they're going to be overstayed. And if they don't overstay and they recall, you're back to lane first. You're only going to lose probably, let's say, 2 minions. So like 100 gold. And then you get control over the wave. You'd probably push the next wave because, again, you're there first. And then you are also on a BF sword, which is a big spike for you. And then you get to go ward somewhere or do something, right? Whereas when you do something like this, and this isn't even, again, the enemy are not punishing us properly at all. I mean, even their Amumu is up a level and just, yeah, nothing really happens, so. But like I said, I don't think this is necessarily like an awful choice for me to stay. It's just not what I would have done, and I explained kind of the reasoning, but either choice is like reasonable, I would say. And it is a lot more of those other things that really make it so bad. And then, yeah, you're just going to lose this gold anyway now. So it's not like we didn't, it's just that we lost the gold later, right? Like, we're still losing the gold eventually. Is it better to get no BF sword and to do that? It might be, I don't
I prefer the attack speed though. Like
really.
the BF set doesn't give me much early game. That's why I prefer the recall bow.
I've never done the math on it, so I don't know. Just a question, but yeah.
Like if I get like my passive auto attack out, it's way more damage than having BF sword.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So if you're getting your passive out, if you think you're going to have enough. So I would say, yeah, that makes sense if you think you're going to have long enough trades. And if you think it's maybe really short trades, then maybe BF Sword's better because you won't proc passive either way. But I think that's reasonable. And then again, I mean, there's even like, and again, these are small things, but we can pay a lot more attention to what the enemy's actually wanting to do and when we need to walk up. Again, they have poke. So if we also think about like the way they want to play versus the way we want to play, we want to all in them, you know, and they want to poke us because they have higher range, they have better poke, they have better sustain. But obviously your champion's way better, you know, all in, and Seraphine ult's also pretty nice for getting it all in. And so when you walk up, when the wave is full health, and like they're not, it's not like you have to last it, you don't have to walk up for this. The enemy are just able to poke you for free because they have way higher range, and then that's what ends up happening, right? So these small things keep adding up, and then you get fucked later on because of it, basically.
Just walking up for no reason.
Yeah. And again, this is where it comes down to understanding, kind of, again, very similar thing to understanding what the enemy wants to do. You need to understand the goal of each of you guys. Again, like the goal for you all in, the goal for them is to poke. You need to think about these types of things, start asking yourself these questions, put yourself in their shoes, and then based on that, you start making your decisions. Whereas our decisions here are generally like, I want to get prio, so I'm going to walk up. I don't care if I take a little bit of HP. Would that be fine on some champions? Like maybe if you're playing Ezreal, yeah, because then you're going to get a lot of free poke later on because you're going to have the prio, you're going to push them under turret. But in a losing matchup against high range champions where your support's also not playing the best and you guys are very far behind health-wise, it doesn't make as much sense. Whereas here, like you actually might have even had an all-in angle. I think probably not. But like this is a realistic opportunity to potentially mechanically outplay them where you got your passive on them. If you like W immediately alt auto, or if you auto right now and then alt for auto reset and then W'd him, I think you'd kill him. I'm not necessarily saying I want you to 100% try that because you might die to Caitlyn after. But the point is, even though you guys are down health right now and not very strong because of items and whatever, you still have all-in angles because of how much stronger your champions are in these type of scenarios. And so you need to play really hard around that if you're going to try to outplay, or you just let them push into you and then you just farm and kind of like take that rather than taking so much poke earlier on.
Sometimes I just autopilot sun vision on minions instead of hitting enemy champions. Like that's one of bad habits of mine.
Yeah, yeah. I would say autopilot, I think, is the main thing that I like see here. Is like I just don't think you're asking yourself certain questions that would make it a lot easier. And I think you probably know the answer to a lot of these questions. Also, yeah, that was unfortunate. You could have possibly outplayed, but yeah. But again, even now, the fact that you're low health isn't because of these last like couple seconds. It's the things leading up to that that are all leading to you ending up getting poked out because of all those little things. But people don't usually knock themselves for getting poked when they're full HP because it's like whatever. They knock themselves when they get caught afterwards, but you're never even going to be in that position if we're doing these things. So that's the main thing. And then yeah, you pretty much just have to focus on gold here. Again, like greed, I guess because you have item, actually it's fine. I was going to say I might want to greed the extra wave because I know they're going to go herald and rotate, but because you have item, I think it's fine to just do this. Shout out to the Gragas, damn.
And Gragas is really smooth mid game, but also doing a lot of mistakes.
Again, I don't really know if we want to fight a level down. If
I
you look at
don't- I want-
items,
I want-
did you check items or something and like know like she's super
Yeah, I
weak?
checked items. Like she's super weak. She
Okay.
has no damage. Like
Okay.
even if she hits me for 2 seconds straight, she will not kill me.
Yeah. If it works, it works. Hey, you get her flash. Yeah, if we check items and we know specific, then it's good. So worked out perfect. So great play there.
And Greg
For
is
sure.
just up there, so actually it was a winning play.
Yeah, for sure. It was a good play. You're definitely right. Also, this is random, but where's your accent from? Or like, where are you from? If you don't mind me asking, you don't have to answer. I'm sorry.
I live in Germany, but I am half Vietnamese, half Korean.
Okay, because like you sound just like the coach of Fnatic. I don't know why, like, but I don't. Do you ever watch PC League Esports or anything like that?
I do watch it. I would watch it.
Did you sound like Grabs? I don't know. Like your voice sounds just like Grabs, and it's so funny to me. But that's very random. But I think the choice here was right. Like that was a good choice by you, and unfortunate that you get ganked here after. Not really your fault.
I just didn't realize that Lisandro was actually rotating and just leaving the wave.
Yeah, it's fine. And you're still creating good gold for yourself. Like again, you understand how to play from behind pretty well. Here I might just go top right after because I have a wave where that bot wave doesn't really matter that much. And if I make this topside play, I can actually open up the game and like possibly get a lot out of it. And I don't really get that much from bot. Like I said, the wave is neutral, so if nobody responds there, it's kind of valuable. But if we just end up going here, we're weaker than the enemy, probably don't provide the most value. Whereas topside, I can expect likely to be able to do something. But instead, we're kind of just stuck here. We're probably going to lose the turret anyway. Maybe she ends up inting. I mean, she's awful. So, like, shout out to her.
Yeah, she's awful. I just killed her. But
yeah. But, like, in terms of the decision... What's up?
Maybe I could have turned on Navi and then just killed her as well, but that would have been probably too much.
Yeah, I think you would have died. But in terms of the decision, I'd way rather go topside here still. Like, topside turret's easier to take. Our team was already losing. We don't really want to, when we're losing, stack, like, evenly. In terms of like numbers, because we're usually just going to lose those fights. Again, like they had to like completely grief that for it to be winning, and I'm not really going to look at the result as much as I'm going to look at like what's recreatable again. And so I'd way rather be topside there already, because then I can potentially kill the Yone with my teammate, like get a surprise, and then I'm also spending time on the opposite side of the map to where the objective is spawning, which when I'm behind is nice because it's easier to get free gold on that side. And we had that timer because we pushed the wave first, so we would have been able to get there quicker than the enemy. But you know, I don't think it's awful to go mid either. But yeah, it's just like every time.
I could have just pushed one more wave and then recall.
For bot side here?
Yeah, for bot side.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little scary. Like I think this is fine to recall because it's like, again, they're kind of coming, right? So I'm pretty fine with that. Where it's different when in the other times I told you, because the death timer was, or like the objective was closer or further away rather. So like your death wouldn't have mattered as much. And also, you weren't getting collapsed on so quickly. There, it was pretty likely you died, so I'm fine with not greeting it. And then again, you need to be spending topside here, or spending time topside here. When you're behind in the game, and you're just like trying to find a way back into the game, you want to make plays opposite side of where the enemy are going to be stacked a lot. So they're obviously going to go contest dragon. One dragon doesn't really matter. Our top laner's not rotating. He's not in a position to rotate, and our team just died, like they're resetting. There's not really much for you to do here. You could have been topside 20 seconds ago, 30 seconds ago, and making a play again on the Yone. So we just need to be more aware. And there's also the turret there. So there's a big reward if you end up getting that kill, is the entire turret. So that can really break open the game and give you a lot of gold. Instead, we end up fighting as 1.5 item Kai'Sa mid game is pretty useless. Like, sure, you know, if your team makes really good engages, you're there to follow up. But oftentimes, this is just going to end up being kind of a lost fight. Also, I would get this bot wave. Because again, you need to kind of understand what you do end up getting the bot wave. You need to understand that you should, you know, if you can get into the fight when your team's doing well, that's fine to go to the fight. But you really need to be greeting as well, like as much gold as you can and more focusing on the fight. Because like here, an unfortunate W, you know, happens. But like what ends up happening, we just go into a fight that's probably losing because it's a 4v4 against a team that's ahead of us. So usually it just ends up being bad. Again, they int into us so hard, by the way, like they are awful. Again, we're going to look at the decision making more than these random things that ended up sometimes kind of working. But even in a play that worked out well for you, you get 200 extra gold compared to what they get for killing you. If you went topside, which you should have been topside, you're going to kill this Yone 100%. And then you're going to get top turret. That's way more than a 200 gold value of a play. And your Grog is stealing that. He's going to steal or not steal regardless of whether or not you're there, because he's over the wall, right? He just goes over the wall. He either hits it or he doesn't. So like the risk reward factor is just not really beneficial for you. Even if you guys get the dragon, you still end up going down gold from that fight as a whole. Does that basically make sense? Like I want you on the opposite side more.
It actually makes sense because I'm ignoring top lane like the whole time.
Yeah, and there's a lot of times, and that's generally mid game. What I'm looking for is a lot of times turrets. Like if there's a turret up on either side lane, that's usually where I want to be spending more of my time. But you need to make sure you push your wave first, and then you go there, basically.
As I said in the beginning, I'm really clueless about wards and where to be in the map.
Yeah, which is perfect, because the good thing is those things are pretty straightforward. It's pretty hard to teach someone how to click their buttons properly, or that type of thing, right? And you're able to do that very effectively. Again, you're literally better than me at Kai'Sa or at most ADCs. Like I think the only ADC that I'm similar mechanically on is Varus, because I've played like 1,500 games with him. Any other ADC, and I've hit Sovereign playing, ADCs. So like, doesn't matter, right? Your mechanics are good. You focus on getting gold. You focus on these certain things. You're going to be able to climb pretty effectively. And it's always nice to duo queue too. Like if you do have good duo players, that always obviously makes it easier.
I never wanted to take the bot wave. I just wanted that the Urgot go bot and I can help the mid lane. But it is what it is.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. I'm fine with you being bot. Like even there, I would want to be on another bot wave here, because your team's going to clear that wave eventually anyway. And we can generally look at where our wave is to know like where their wave is. So our wave just spawned. Clearly they have one more wave because like that's just how it works, right? When they're meeting, since they have it pushing in. So we know a wave is going to come here soon. And so we'd rather just stay around to get that wave rather than go mid where we're already going to lose basically everything. And then our team's just going to clear the wave. Like you end up going there, you don't get anything. And then the bot wave pushes in. So it's just, again, kind of the same thing with staying on an additional wave.
Wasting time.
Yeah. Which again, just use your waves as reference, basically, for where their wave will be. But yeah, it's unfortunate. It is what it is. Main thing is the mid game making plays around that topside turret quicker after we push out our wave, because we have that wave to make plays on.
Yeah, just abandon the bot wave and went for the fights.
Yeah. Yeah, the overall focus on waves. And then the understanding that when we're behind, the goal is not to fight a bunch of even fights. The goal is to get ourselves to our strength, because again, it's about, just like I told you, I want you playing around your goal in lane, which is to all in. I also want you playing around your goal as a champion, which is to hit realistically like 3 items and then start carrying from there. 2 items, you're still strong, so like you can fight on 2 items if you're ahead of the curve of the game. But when you're behind the pace of the game, it's kind of risky. And we just want to be playing more like around that gold as much as we can. And obviously, if your team is doing well and we're winning the fights, you should still go. But when your team's kind of behind and the fights are going poorly, then yeah. I guess you're the jungler though, so that was a good smite by you. Works out. Yeah, and it's good to recall here since you have your item. Because that is the time where it's a bit more okay to like recall quick, is like if you have that item spike sometimes, you want to get on the map quicker with that. So that's more when I'm like, we don't need to get one more wave, and you're resetting for dragon. So all those choices are good. And yeah. I would say the other thing is keeping track of who like spells and fights again, kind of who's dangerous, what you need to respond to, or like with. So like here, obviously, you see 2 people on the map. You're really mostly scared of like the Amumu engage, so you're kind of just cutting around that. I assume you'll play a fight pretty well mechanically. Oh, that was really nice.
We just turn on the Amumu and we go. We just leave.
Yeah. That was a really nice knock up from the Zyra though. Like it stopped his thing, so that was good. But you had cleanse, so you weren't really too scared of anything. And again, this is a time where I'd kind of like pushing a side lane. Like the thing about sieging with Kai'Sa is you're really low range, and so it's kind of hard to get that much damage on a turret. There's no reason you can't just go bot side and start hitting this bot turret. Because then, like, you have only 21 seconds left of a Baron. Your team getting the inhib or not getting it's probably not changed by you being here. But if you go here, you get an extra turret out of it guaranteed, and then you're starting to pressure another turret, get more value out of that. So it's kind of the second time where when you've had Baron, I'd rather you're pushing mid, but then use the fact that you have mid push to go side, basically.
Okay. So we go from mid push into side lane.
Generally. Now, like, if you see an easy angle to take the turret, go to the turret, right? But this is like, again, you can see there's a wave on the turret. You should just be there right now because there's no wave here. So if you're like, oh, if you really think you're the difference between pushing or not pushing it, then do that. But generally speaking, you're not going to be, and you'd rather create these like small windows of an extra person being somewhere or pushing a side out to have multiple waves, because then you draw people to other sides instead of everyone, you know, sitting in mid together, and then they're just going to wave clear for free. So basically, you see how what literally ended up happening is you did what I said just 10 seconds later, and so now you don't have the Baron because Baron ended, and then you're not going to get this, or you might still get it, but like it's later, right? So it would essentially just been this entire thing, but you would have had a wave, whereas now we don't have the wave here, and we don't end up getting any inhibs out of our Baron. I think we will eventually because they're dead, but like kind of just that whole sequence could have been a bit smoother. Oh, she's a triple. I think you still killed him.
I kill both.
Yeah. That's good.
But now I try to end.
I would think you maybe can end here. But I'm assuming you don't. Yeah.
It's actually so close.
Yeah, that's
22 HP, like one more. I was like, actually, flash auto attack, and I would have gotten the wit. Just flash auto attack for the auto attack reset.
That's
It's
tragic.
actually so unfortunate. It's really, really unfortunate.
Yeah.
And now enemy team gets better.
You guys lose or you win?
You will see.
Nice. Oh, you
like here I didn't respect the Sandra because I didn't have claims, so I just die for free.
Yeah, which is the spell tracking thing, right? As we kind of spoke about before, you know, the similar kind of mistake. It's completely reasonable though. Like you're tilted a little bit, probably a little annoyed at what just happened.
I'm so tilted because I couldn't end.
Yeah. It's understandable. These types of games happen too, and then like the thing I try to do is when a random throw like this happens, obviously, you know, it's pretty obvious what could have been done differently, but like when a throw like this happens, the main thing I try to do is when the next time that the enemy throw a game like this where I randomly come back when I never should have won, I just like am like, okay, it's even now, you know, it evened out, because that's usually what ends up happening. Sometimes the enemy do the same thing and then it evens out in the long run. So that's a way to at least be a little less tilted from it, but I would be tilted too because yeah, it fucking sucks. And the QSS is nice to have now as well, because yeah.
Yeah, but I wish I would have used it.
I think you would have died anyways, though, to be fair.
Because Elder's just collapses with Elder, and what are we doing?
Yeah. And I think that's not really the main kind of, you know, worry I would say from, or like main thing to learn. Let's go. Do you see my screen for the notes?
Yeah. Okay. I see your notes.
Cool. Dude, it autocorrects so many League of Legends terms. It really pisses me off when I'm typing, but it's fine. Okay, going in back to, we'll just think about the start of the lane phase from the first game, and we'll just kind of go onwards. And anytime you think of a specific question or something you want me to write down, let me know. And then when I write these down, obviously I'm going to send them to you afterwards. And so if I'm writing it and it doesn't make sense, or you want me to like say it in a different way that will work better for you, then just let me know and I'll type it differently. Because obviously the notes are for you.
I will understand it most of the times because.
Yeah.
If I have a question, I will ask.
Yeah, I just pointed that out. So the first thing is early game, keep track of enemy spells early. And if our teammate is inting, sometimes, bro, see hinting, like it doesn't understand League of Legends terms. Okay, if our teammate is inting, we sometimes need to make the incorrect play to, you know, prevent the worst case scenario. Like the thing I'm kind of thinking about, you know, is specifically the Nami walking up level 1, where you actually could have technically created an all-in and won, you know, by targeting the Caitlyn right away as your Nami got hooked, because your champion strength, as we said, is all-inning. The Nami has better all-in than Blitzcrank level 1. She just has more damage, more range, whatever. That you would be able to most likely win that. And just understanding that, again, it's your teammate's fault, but we can put ourselves in a position to still get value out of that. And so kind of similarly is just understand champ strength and weaknesses, which is like, for example, Kaisa, what were you second game? Kaisa, who's your support? Just look.
Seraphine maybe? I don't know.
Yeah,
I forgot who
Seraphine.
was Nezuko.
Yeah. So Kaisa Sarah wins all in against Kate Nami, but loses poke. So we want to create scenarios where we can all in and avoid poke. And then after that, kind of similar thing, but it's like, don't hit wave for no reason. For no reason. Have a purpose behind wave management. So generally, it's nice to have prio. Like, prio is preferred, 80% of the time, I would say, 90% of the time. But in these scenarios where, like, for example, your Seraphine was AFK level 1, or maybe they were just playing bad, whatever happens, and then you start pushing the wave, now the enemy can freeze on you. Now, they didn't because they suck, but, like, they could have. And they could walk up a lot more aggressive and punish you. And you need to understand, again, same thing with their strengths and weaknesses. They have that range advantage, so you can't just walk up for free because they're just going to outpoke you. That type of thing. Then the warding thing is the next thing. So do not ward level 1. Then after first wave, if we push it quickly, then go ward a camp. And if we are pushed under tower, then ward a safe bush, like tri-bush. Or if you're on the other side of the map, I think you can probably envision the bush. I would tell you to ward if you can. And then, yeah, so that's kind of the wording thing. And then same thing with like mid-game. Try to use prio, mid-prio to ward objectives / camps. So just generally we want these better value wards when we can. Obviously, if you don't really have any push, you have to ward safely. Let's see, then mid-game oftentimes can take an additional wave, especially if our death won't be game breaking. For example, when no objectives are spawning, because obviously then our death is just a death, it's not a big death. That thing is definitely one of the major things I would say. Yeah, there's the I don't know why my mind is blanking, but yeah, there's the catching the additional wave, using prio more to get wards, and then keeping track of enemy spells in lane, just generally like keeping track of their goals and their strengths and weaknesses. And then later in the game, keep track of most dangerous spells. So like the last, example, and don't walk up until they are gone. They are gone, or if you have a response, a way to defend against it, like, stasis or whatever. I can't type defend against it. So like the Syndra or the Lysandra, where you didn't have your cleanse up, so we can't walk up until later. Obviously that was a bit of a tilt thing, so it's understandable. Then yeah, we can play opposite side of map more often, or opposite side of objective rather, more often when behind. And then also just generally when behind, we do not want even numbered fights, because then we'll probably lose because we're behind. And then again, these are kind of very similar things, but in many scenarios, mid game, we can push our lane's wave, recall, and go top side if the enemy top turret is up. But only usually do this if our turret is already dead or enemy turret is already dead. And what I mean is in our lane, obviously. I think that's understood, right? That's our lane. Or you want me to type it differently?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay. So what I mean, to just explain this a little further, is like, say that you've taken their turret, right, in your lane, and then you just push a wave, so you have an additional wave, so it's pushing into them. And then you recall and you go topside. That's good because you're going to be able to snowball your lead further, because in that case, you're probably really ahead because you took their turret. And so you're using that to further your own lead, even if the enemy maybe get your turret. And then the other case is you're behind, and so then you get that, like the game that we just saw, where you're behind, so you've lost your turret, but then you push an additional wave, so now you have time to go rotate to catch up. But say that both turrets were still there, a lot of times you're going to want to stay on your own turret to try to take their turret or defend your turret. Obviously, each scenario is kind of unique, so you can determine whether or not you think it's actually a good idea to just rotate anyway. But a lot of times, if you're trying to find a way to come back into a game that feels hard, just think about going away from the enemy, making these plays to, again, like kind of stack one side of the map more hard, and then use second dragon especially as a distraction instead of trying to fight a second dragon when we're really weak. I think these are the main points I can think of that we kind of spoke about. Do you have any questions or anything else that we spoke about that you remember?
What if I'm actually winning lane and get the first turret bot lane? Do I still go top lane, or do I just push my wave bot lane and just rotate mid lane and try to get mid turret?
Yeah, so as I said, like with this, I said if the enemy top turret is up, but only usually do this if our turret is already dead or enemy turret is dead. So it's both. So in a scenario where you've killed their turret, the only time that I want you to do, so like I'll just go back into the example to make it a bit easier to understand. So here, I think both turrets were dead. It's probably further back.
Yeah, both turrets are dead.
Yeah, so both turrets were dead at this point when I was telling you to do it, which was like, yeah, up like around here area, even a little, around here, right? And so in this case, let's just say only that you'd killed their turret and you were ahead a lot, like you were really ahead. So the time that then you would still want to go topside is if, say, the game is not going the way you want, because it's going to be a way you can break open the game further. So let's say you were fed, you're 4-0, you're popping off, but your top laner's inting, your jungle's inting, right? And so you're strong, but your team's doing bad. In that case, you're probably going to have to make a play like this topside play to get even further ahead and spread your gold quickly, because if you just wait until 30 minutes, your team's going to lose, right? Because they're doing shit. But let's say there's a different scenario where your teammates are doing really well and you're doing really well. Well, then you're chilling, right? You just push your lane, then you go mid, you chill in mid, then you go back to your lane when it comes, and it's more chill because you're fine with the game progressing as the way it is. So when you want to accelerate the game, or you need something to happen, or else you're just going to get outscaled or the game's going to go bad, that's when you go topside, which is why if your turret's dead and you're doing bad, early game, or you're behind early game, we're going topside to try to break open the game. Or if your team is doing bad and you're ahead, then you're the sole carry. You need to like break open that game super hard and get so fed that nobody can deal with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Any other specific questions or anything?
Baron usage, like
Oh yeah.
how do I get the most value out of Baron?
Yeah, so typically with Baron, we want to initially push mid, then either use that mid push to take towers. Like obviously, right, if you can take a free tower mid. Pretty straightforward. Or if they have good wave clear / we have bad pushing, because like Kai'Sa's not the best at pushing, then use mid push to then go side lane and try to sync the waves together. Do you know what I mean when I say sync the waves or no?
Yeah, sync the wave, so like top lane and bot lane are just both collapsing on the turrets.
Yeah, exactly.
So we force the mid lane, and then we can just choose a side lane to push.
And to be clear, it can kind of be either way. Like the order of operations in terms of go mid then top, or say, top then mid, it's not actually that important. What's important is that you use pressure from one lane to draw people, and then you start splitting the map so that people get, split up, and then you can take turrets easier. So like say, I think I'm trying to find when you had Baron. Was it earlier? Yeah, it was like here.
Earlier.
Yeah, so say here, we go even slightly further back. Say here with the Baron, you went bot side and you kept going bot side, and then you use the fact that people come to you bot side to then go mid and then take the turret. It does the same thing effectively. Generally, it's easier to go through mid because usually your team's just going to go mid anyway. And so like the fact that you push side here is good because now you get it pushing. So then now the mid and the bot are going to be pushing at the same time. So essentially, your first, let's say 30 seconds to a minute of the Baron, you're trying to get these waves pushing properly. And then once the waves actually start reaching their turrets at a relatively similar time, you use the pressure from one lane to then collapse on another lane. Or if you see a free kill angle, then you can just, go into the mid and kill them if it's like a free kill, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. Any other questions or things we talked about?
I think that's probably it.
Okay. Then I'll send you these notes. You're free to DM me anytime you have any other questions or if you think of something. But yeah, I'll see you later and good luck.